Okay, America, the Life of Rights in the Shadow. You need to understand that it would be possible for me to talk and talk and talk and talk and talk about this stuff. You know, I've written books on common sense, the degeneration and the redemption of political life in America. On the nature of public life, the soul of a people, the spirit of a nation, and the sacrifices of its leaders. Okay? Right here I'm just introductory, and you can read this stuff for free. You know, it's all on the internet for free. But I'm just introducing certain elements of the thing that need to come before us. Okay, so we have this life of rights, and it's the most earthly sphere of human existence. And in terms of the evolution of consciousness, it's a field of activity in which we wake up to the consciousness soul, and that English speakers have this instinct for the consciousness soul in their life of rights. And what do they do in the consciousness soul? Well, they're trying to find the true and the good. They're trying to unite their soul with the true and the good, which are aspects of the eternal. Okay, so when you look at political situations and you read the newspaper and you do the stuff you do or watch the news, you can see sort of peeking through all this stuff that's going on, this massive struggle that's going on in our cultural and political existence related to the issues of the life of rights. And of course, there's not a lot of clarity. And one of the roles of anthroposophy ultimately, and by this I mean real anthroposophy, is to bring clarity to the situation. And we don't necessarily bring clarity by selling Rudolf Steiner to people. We bring clarity by thinking and creating things that the common intellect can understand without all this Steiner said stuff. Here I've just referred to it because you can get from your thinking some really interesting questions and trains of thought if you let Steiner's pointing things out to you influence you. So I did a couple, you know, from Challenge of the Times and also from inner aspects of the social question. All right. So here we have America. America has a history. It's discussed very much in this particular book. And there are very, very powerful things going on in America in the present that are related to all this. We could say that the life of rights is where a kind of war is broken out inside America. And in fact, on my videos on In Praise of the American Spirit, there's a standalone video there that people might want to watch, where I talk about we have met the enemy and he is us, based on an insight of the cartoonist Walt Kelly. And that's where we are today in America, in a sense. We have this sort of enemy thing that we're doing, and we're constantly at war with each other over what the right thing to do is in the life of rights. You know, and some people want to bring in what they think is Christian moral principles into the law, and people who want to have as much freedom as possible, who think that the law should be about their freedom to do whatever they want in terms of raping and pillaging the environment and abusing the consumer and the worker out of the business thing. They think that law should be, they're more equal than other people. You know, so you can see all this stuff, and if you think about it, you can see sort of behind the scenes the wafting flow of these underlying questions in the life of rights. And then we also have the situation, you know, which we have all these talking heads now with all these blogs on the internet and all the people on cable television screaming and yelling at each other and making all kinds of messes. And a lot of it, you know, what goes on in Washington, in a sense, defies common sense. You know, that's why I wrote the book Uncommon Sense, because the common sense principles that Thomas Paine knew about have become uncommon. You don't find many people in public life who really appreciate that stuff anymore. They have their opinion. And where does this come from? Well, it comes from a certain thing in human life called antipathy and sympathy. Steiner talked about it a lot. Challenge of the Times, he talks about it a lot. In my thing on We Have Met the Enemy in Us, I talk about it. I'm not going to repeat all of that here, just to say that if we look at the sort of disagreements that go on, they're driven by feelings. Our political disagreements are driven by feelings of antipathy and sympathy. We're all individuals, and we all like and dislike different things, and then we form collectives and we beat each other up over it, and it can get pretty nasty. Everybody knows this, you know. Some ideas, the new atheists, for example, think that all the wars are caused by religions, but it's really just human psychology. The religion is an excuse for that. But anyway, in our time, we have these temptations to excess. And the interesting thing about temptations to excess, and I talked about this earlier in Real Anthroposophy, about how the shadow is able to make the whole society pivot in a certain direction, because the double is a hierarchical structure. It's gloves within gloves within gloves within gloves that leads to a particular way or view of things. And it's made a difference now in our public life, particularly in the present, because a character who previously had a purely spiritual existence and who's a kind of, in my writing in my book American Anthroposophy, I call him outrageous genius, is incarnated. And this is a guy that Steiner called Ehrman. And he told us that Ehrman would incarnate. And he told us when Ehrman would incarnate. But Ehrman has been able to confuse translators of the particular statement that helps us understand that, so that you can have translators saying two different things. One is that before even part of the new millennium has begun, he'll be incarnated, and the new millennium began, of course, in 2001 or whatever you want to say, and other translators say, well, it's after the millennium has started, and they're looking for Ehrman coming in the future. And I'm on the side where not only can you understand that Steiner wouldn't have talked about something happening in 200 or 300 years and given it all that importance that he gave to it if it wasn't just around the corner. But anyway, so Ehrman has incarnated, and in my book, American Anthroposophy, you'll have me define him as a guy by the name of Karl Rove. And he incarnated inside the Bush White House, and he had a strong, strong influence on the way that White House reacted to the trials that we began the third millennium with. The Bush administration occurred at the beginning of the third millennium, and they had a strong influence on all kinds of things that went on in the life of rights. And within that administration, there was a single individual who was able to work from behind the scenes with a certain kind of genius, a certain kind of callous indifference, because he was, shall we say, an individual who did not have a heart, and he drew to him other individuals who had this tendency for heartlessness, and we had a whole situation where the whole development of things was heartless.